I tried to record this review about a month ago and I didn't quite feel like I got everything with it. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the 2016 NC750X. For those of you who might be looking to do the upgrade or might be in a rare situation like I am, so that way you have a baseline of what you can expect going into this. So I bought the bike back in April 2016, upgraded from an NC700X. And while the NC700X was the perfect bike for what I needed it here, I can't really complain and say that I needed anything else, but I did desire a little bit more out of the bike. So fast forward to now, I've had the bikes for about maybe about 4 months, and in those 4 months I have literally been riding this thing every single day. It is my primary commuter here in Japan, so I can safely say that I know my bike relatively intimately at this point. So getting into it, so that way I don't waste your guys' time too much. Overall summary for this bike, I would say that it's literally an NC700X but more fun. That's it. So one thing, going through some of the positives, the looks. Starting with the looks of it, it's slightly updated from 2015 and down, and I gotta say, I really do like the LED lights. They both look really good and are very, very functional at night. I think at this point I'm gonna put a little clip of it when I was driving on a mountainside in pitch black, and those lights were a saving grace. I'm glad I had them, and they worked extremely well. I almost wish I could have them a little bit brighter for that moment, but outside of that, they are just perfect, if not a little too bright for some people. So I'm really glad that they did that. Moving forward, the next biggest thing is the upgraded suspension. Now I know that when I was looking into buying this or upgrading to it, I really wanted to hear people's thoughts on how the suspension really did help the bike, or if it did at all. I can safely say that after the break-in period with this bike, the upgraded suspension works wonders. You won't feel it at first. When I first bought the bike, it really did feel exactly the same. I couldn't tell a difference, mostly because the biggest difference that you'll feel is when you're riding it a lot harder than you should be, or when you think you should be. So when I was taking it around town, it pretty much soaked up the bumps like normal. It felt like a cushy ride. When I went up with the old bike, sometimes when I'd be going into a turn or driving around, I'd get this vague feeling from the front end. It just didn't really feel planted sometimes, so I kind of backed off quite a bit, and that was with the old one. With this one, I went a little bit harder than I did with my NC700X. Not as hard as I would say with my Daytona, but a lot harder. And the bike never once complained at any speed I took it at. And I took it through the ranges of speeds, that's for sure. The bike just kept composed the entire time, and that is a significant upgrade from what it used to be, where I could be going maybe 80 kilometers, 80 almost, about 70 kilometers, anywhere between there, and I just did not feel like the front end was even there. So now it does, so I highly recommend that. And then again, just the same with the 700, the maintenance on this thing is great. You literally don't have to do anything to it, and it takes care of you. There's never any issues with it. I absolutely love that about this bike, and it's one of the biggest selling points for me, and I think for a lot of people. So with the 2016, those are some of the positives. Going on to the negatives though. The gears still slip. I thought that it was my model, my NC700X that I bought, it would often slip out of gear on second. No. If you accelerate hard enough in second gear with a 2016, and it's a standard model, not a automatic or DCT, you'll still slip gears. The threshold that you have to pull on that throttle to make it slip is a lot harder, or a lot higher than it was before, but it still will do it. And it kind of can scare me. It'll scare you sometimes when it happens. The sound is god-awful. They changed the exhaust. It doesn't matter. It's still god-awful. Change it as soon as you humanly can, which is something I'll get over in the things to note section. The gear indicator, as nice as it is, it sometimes, like my Daytona was the first gear indicator that I'd ever gotten with a bike, and it tracks gears relatively well. This one, I've had more often than not where the dash just kind of forgets what gear it's in when I shift, or it doesn't know, so the line will just kind of blank out and look confused until you pull the clutch in, and then it'll catch again, but you need to do that. Also about it, this bike is very nitpicky with gearing or gear position, so a lot of times I'll be come to a stop in like maybe third or fourth gear, and I pull the clutch in, go to shift down, and it doesn't do anything. I have to release the clutch, then pull it back in, and then start over again. And I mean, it's a minor annoyance, but it's not that big, but it's just one of those things that I've noted that I didn't really have an issue with on the older model. At higher speeds, sometimes the bike does feel a little loose. Parts on it just seem to be kind of hanging around, and that might be my fault in the way I installed some of my aftermarket parts. I could see that being, but sometimes the handlebars just don't really feel like, they feel kind of floaty, like almost like how if you had your storage compartment kind of open and it kind of wiggles a little bit, kind of like that, but it's not that big a deal. And the stock chain, I'd have to say, is probably of a worse quality than the NC700. I've gotten more rust on that chain. I cleaned it off, but it's gotten more rust than my old chain did, and that's kind of weird to me, but it's whatever. So those are some of the negatives. Again, like I said with the 700 review, the bike doesn't really do anything that is deal breaker bad. I still highly recommend it. Even with those things, they're just minor annoyances. But moving on to things to note, the 2014 parts for this bike, I was really hesitant to try it, but if it's not a part that's directly changed from the 2015 and down to the 2016, it probably works. I'm still using SW Motec 2014 bar handguards, yeah, and they work just fine. I really have no issues with them. So don't be afraid to do that. Anything of note, the biggest part and the biggest things I was kind of worried about when it came to changing exhausts. A lot of companies don't want to say that their 2015 and down parts or exhausts fit for the 2016. They do. As you can probably see at one point in this video, I'm clearly using a 2014 Yoshimura, I forget what I put on there. Yoshimura exhaust, we'll go with that. But yeah, I installed it and it works just fine. And to note, it has a center stand stop on it, so don't go and buy a center stand stop separate on top of the exhaust like I did. It's still on there and I might as well keep it there. LD stands for lowered. Don't make the same mistake I did and buy a lowered version, because the lowered version handles like absolute crap. Don't do it. The increased storage doesn't really change much of anything. It's pretty much the same exact, it functions exactly the same way as the old one did. And the mounts on the tank, or in the storage compartment for a tank bag, I haven't really gotten a chance to use it because I can't really find a bag that will do what I need it to do. So that being said, and one thing I forgot to say for the positives, the new LED dash, or the dash bar that changes colors, is fantastic. It's great. And that's just about it. You can customize it to say a message when you turn on the bike every time. It's pretty neat, but that's about it. So my final thoughts on it. Keep this under 10 minutes. The bike is fantastic. As the same, with the same example or analogy I used last time, it's the girlfriend that does nothing wrong. It still is that same girl, but she literally went and got a haircut, and she has changed her clothes, and she knows a couple more tricks at the bar. And that's pretty much exactly what you can expect. When you take her back, she's still just as reliable. She still loves you the same, but she is more fun. Outside of that, or after that break-in period, I gotta say that I've had a blast with this bike. Break-in, it was boring as all heck. I'd almost say I'd wish I'd have gone back to the 700. But after that, the bike's engine has a lot of pep to it. It's not as fast as a, bare bones 600, well, 670 like my Daytona, but it's a great bike, and it will take care of you. So if you're looking into it, and you haven't bought one, I think you already know what you're looking for, and it's a good bike. It's just, it's not stupidly better than the old version that went out. So, I hope you all have a great day. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be glad to answer them. Bye-bye.